Hello everybody, it's me Scoop, and Death of a Unicorn was just kind of alright. I'm not gonna lie, this video is probably gonna be pretty short because I really don't have all that much to say about Death of a Unicorn. It was perfectly fine. I just felt compelled to make this video because there's so many people yapping on Twitter about how when an original movie comes out, nobody goes to see it. And I mean, let's be honest, they are correct, but I just wanted to say, I just want to put it on the record, I saw this movie. And I still didn't really like it all that much. I paid $25 fucking for this shit when you consider the little thing of popcorn that I got as well, which is just insane. If you wonder why nobody's going to see original movies anymore, it's because you take a gamble on a movie like this, you spend $25 and you get it was alright experience out of it. I think the first problem here is that this movie makes me feel almost nothing for Paul Rudd, which is that's borderline impressive, man. I mean, he's got to be one of the most electric actors to have ever hit the big screen. So for me to watch a movie and be like, yeah, he was fine, is not a great sign, let's be fair. Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd play father-daughter in this movie, and I actually remember way back when it was announced, the simple premise was Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd play father and daughter, and they run over a unicorn on their way to this log cabin place. And I thought that sounded like a pretty wacky, fun premise. I had no idea what kind of tone or vibe they were going for based off of that, but like, it sounded good. Jenna Ortega, I will admit, she is a very talented actress, but there's just something about her, I can't quite put my finger on it. I just don't like her. Whenever she shows up in things, I'm like, oh god, it's Jenna Ortega. She never does a bad job in it either. She's always anywhere from perfectly fine to actually pretty good. I don't know, man. I don't like her. This movie did not buck that trend, unfortunately. I didn't love her in this. So the main premise of Death of a Unicorn is, as I said, Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega are playing, say it with me, father and daughter, and they run over a unicorn on their way to this very wealthy family's cabin in this nature reserve because Paul Rudd is essentially going to become a new member of this board of directors of this massive pharmaceutical company that this family has started and owns. Now, given the news, given a certain Mario character making a big appearance in the news in the past couple of months, you might expect some satire to come in here. And you'd be wrong. That's definitely step one of where this movie went wrong. They went for pure satire rather than commentary, and when you're telling an hour and 45-minute film that actually does veer into pretty solid thriller, borderline on even horror territory towards the end of the second and start of the third act, you need a little more than just some goofy satire, alright? You gotta be saying something a little more meaty than that. I would say this wealthy family is actually the best part of the movie. It is pretty fun, especially in the first act, to watch them just kind of be really weird and very wealthy in the way they kind of order around all the people who work for them, and just the weird vibe that they have about them is very enjoyable. Will Poulter especially is killing it in this movie. His character was by far the best part of the film for me. So we will be delving into some spoilers here because like I said, I don't have very complicated thoughts on this movie, so I kind of just want to talk about some of the main story beats, how I felt about them, and, you know, get on our way here. So if you haven't seen this movie, my verdict is like, unfortunately, wait for streaming, give it a try. If it's not interesting to you, turn it off. Like, it's really just, it's a perfectly fine movie. It's all right, down to its core. It's all just fine. I can't really recommend that you go see it, especially not for the prices tickets are going for nowadays. I mean, $13 to $15 a ticket for some mid-ass shit, ain't no way, bro. So what ends up happening is because they kill this unicorn, its two parents come looking for it. And yes, I said two parents, because although they reveal that there is a second unicorn in the trailer, the movie is hiding that there's a third unicorn, which I actually appreciated, because to me it did seem very strange to reveal in the trailer that there was a second unicorn that was coming after them, and it was very violent and coming to kill them. That felt like it was giving away way too much of the premise I could have gotten by on. They run over a unicorn, oh my god, the unicorn somehow is a magical cure-all for diseases. And that would have been an interesting enough premise, but they wanted to add a little more stakes into the trailer to get people into seats, which seems to be working to a mixed degree. But I'm glad that the movie still had one more trick up its sleeve to surprise the audience when they sat down. The problem here is that nothing about this movie feels all that well planned out. My immediate reaction when you have Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega is that it's super obvious that the mother passed away from some kind of disease. I'm pretty sure it was cancer, but the exact disease doesn't exactly matter to the story. And now you have a unicorn child that was run over by Paul Rudd, and it's father or mother, we don't know which gender is which for the unicorns, it doesn't really matter. One of the parents is coming after it, and the core of the film is Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega's relationship. So you'd imagine that the unicorn's dynamic, especially how heavily they end up getting focused on in the third act, would be some sort of foil to Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega's journey throughout the film. Unfortunately, It's not. It's just a family of unicorns, and they're coming to take down the baby, and Jenna Ortega, like, looks up some paintings or weaving paintings, whatever you call those, online, and they tell the story of how to deal with unicorns and what unicorns do in certain situations, and that's how they defeat the unicorns. And that's what I mean when I say this movie is just alright. They could have gone the extra mile and made these unicorns a metaphor for Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, and their wife, but they didn't really do that. They could have really delved into what it means to be the family that runs this giant pharmaceutical company and the moral dilemmas that these people have to face, but they don't really do that. I think a perfect example on the moral dilemma front, because I think in real life it's probably a little more clean cut. A lot of them are probably not the best people. But here, they're given a situation where they can essentially kill the rarest creature on the planet, a unicorn of course, but in return, they get a magical cure-all for all human diseases. And the movie paints this as a no-brainer that they should let the unicorn live. Listen, man, I don't know what the right choice is there, but like, at least consider it. You're talking about a cure to every disease in exchange for the life of one animal. That is an interesting philosophical debate. This movie's not interested in having that debate. It just kind of wants to bring it up and then laugh about it. Now, what makes this even more interesting is that they cannot replicate any of the unicorn's blood or the molecules of its horn, however the horn works, because the horn also helps cure things. It's whatever they can get from this unicorn is all that they get for this magical cure-all. And the family starts wasting it in a very silly manner because they want it all for themselves and they want to give it to their friends who are going to pay the highest amount for it. So the movie just wants to make them plain straight up evil, which is like, alright, that's fine, you're welcome to do that. It's maybe a little less interesting, especially if it's not particularly funny, then you're definitely going to have a bit of a miss. And that's what happened here, unfortunately. Outside of Will Poulter's character, who was actually pretty funny, I just don't really care about this family at all, nor do they raise any interesting themes or ideas. I think the other problem is that the movie's story just kind of keeps moving, like, to new thing after new thing, which usually I like when the story feels very dynamic and it's hard to predict what happens next. But here it just means that the story feels very unfocused. We go from Paul Rudd trying to become on this board of directors, to the unicorn secret being revealed, to them discovering it's a magic cure-all for everything, to the unicorn's father coming to hunt them all down, to the wife also joining in hunting them down, to everybody having to escape from the house, and then to Will Poulter trying to use Jenna Ortega as bait to trap the two unicorn parents and create a unicorn stable for an infinite amount of this cure-all that would probably let him live forever. It just feels kind of messy, crammed into this hour and 40-minute package where, like I said, none of these ideas really get developed all too well. If you're wondering why Jenna Ortega would have to be used as bait in this scenario, it's because according to those like scripture things that she pulled from online, the unicorns will only back down for a pure-hearted individual that they form a special connection with, which is, of course, Jenna Ortega. And this is my least favorite element of the plot because, once again, this is not developed in any way, shape, or form. I was about to say it goes nowhere. I guess technically it is the climax of the movie, is her like interacting with the unicorns again, and it's sort of the through line, but the setup is not there. Paul Rudd runs over the unicorn, Jenna Ortega gets out of the car, and they immediately form this bond just because. And what makes this extra frustrating is that, like I said, this movie's not interested in having any sort of moral debates, even though it brings up some very interesting ones to talk about. Jenna Ortega is just automatically considered this magical, super-duper pure-hearted individual to bond with the unicorns because she looks at one and goes, "You can't possibly kill one unicorn for a cure-all to all human diseases. That's not right." And it's like, it's just frustrating because this is such an essential element of the plot, and yet I want them to take it in the opposite direction that they take it. So like I said, I've been trying to break down the intention behind filmmakers' choices so that I can sort of review the film in that way and see if it was successful. And if your goal was to just make a goofy satire of wealthy people, you did fine. You did an okay job. It's just so many movies do a much better job of this than you did that I would have rathered you, instead of leaning into comedy when it wasn't really that funny, you actually try to have these serious debates. I feel like I'm just going in circles at this point, so I'm really going to start to wrap it up here. So, Death of a Unicorn, I'm going to go ahead and give this one 2.5 stars, just directly down the middle there. I pretty much forgot about this film the second I left the theater, so this review was a bit of a struggle for me to just come up with talking points outside of I didn't like that they went for pure satire when it wasn't all that funny because it derailed the story. It's an alright movie. Hollywood, please keep making original films. Just maybe take another pass or two at the script, really iron out all the wrinkles in the story and make sure everything fits together cohesively and perfectly, because here, you just kind of missed. Sorry, A24, this one's not one of your best works. If you guys have seen Death of a Unicorn, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear others' thoughts on it, because nobody's really talking about this movie, like, at all. I have no idea what the critical consensus is, what the Letterboxd consensus is. I haven't looked at anything like that. Let me know what you think. I'd love to discuss it further. Anyway, guys, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, and keep it crispy.